I just needed some freedom, time with the family, the ability to travel.
You're listening to the Johny Pach Show, where I connect you to the most influential, masterful minds of this generation. We're gaining insight into their lives, their achievements, and the stories along the way. Stick around if you too are determined to succeed. Okay, please welcome my guest. Now, with over 13 years, he's built up a number of multi-million pound businesses within the financial services, property development, interior design, and global energy sectors. During this period, he's been able to clients break through their obstacles that they seem to be holding back in their aspirations of financial freedom, wealth, and living a fuller life. Also, to throw it in there, he is a proud member of the Les Brown Maximum Achievement Team as a certified speaker, trainer, and coach. He is committed to motivating and training today's generation to be achievers and leaders, a co-founder, a partner of many investment companies, ultra high net worth private client manager, family man, personal friend. Please welcome Glen King. How are you doing?
Johnny, I'm good, thank you. How are you keeping? That was a nice introduction, I have to say.
Very impressive profile.
How are you?
Absolutely. Yeah, all good.
Good.
Getting through isolation.
Testing times, at the moment. I think it's, not only has it caught everybody offside, it's trying to get to grips with something as we're experiencing with COVID-19 is, would test the softest of personalities and also the most rigid and hard. I think it's been a learning curve for everybody, but ultimately I think some good will come out of it.
No, absolutely. I mean, look, the crux and the title of this show is obviously, where does the smart money invest in times of uncertainty? And yeah, I really do want to pick your brains on all of this. And just firstly, in that blurb, you are a member of the Les Brown Maximum Achievement Team. Tell us about that. You've obviously met Les. I'm a massive fan.
Yeah, I mean, I've met with the team on several occasions, in fact, both UK and stateside. Look, for me, it kind of came about, I mean, without kind of beating around the bush, I, like all of us at some point or another, I had my own kind of hurdles and obstacles in life that I kind of, I struggled to overcome in some respects, and that could have been down to naivety, lack of maturity at that time, going back to kind of my mid-20s, and now at 40, that's changed vastly. But for me, I just needed some guidance, some inspiration, something to focus myself on, to kind of break the cycle, if you will, because I was just hitting, one roadblock after another. I wasn't really kind of gaining any traction. I've always, from a working perspective, I've always been very, very hungry to be successful. Yeah. Not only from a monetary aspect, because I think wealth comes ultimately in many different forms. Yeah. Be it, wealth, money, freedom, time with the family, the ability to travel, and, have a business or a group of businesses of which you're passionate about, because, when you've got that, it never really does feel like work. But, I kind of hit the road, the blocks, and as such, Les Brown had been someone that I'd monitored closely for a good number of years, along with Bob Proctor, Tony Robbins, and various others. But it was purely by luck. So I saw a YouTube video, well over 10 years ago now, I would say probably 12 or 14. And I subscribed to that YouTube page and then just started interacting with the guy that was running that. And he had mentioned that you can do these seminars and stuff, and it was all very new to me. Yes. And I kind of put it to the back streets of my mind for a period, purely because most of it was all in America, and I'm here in the UK. So I put it off for about a year, and then I kind of bit the bullet. I was already travelling to the States anyway, and I went to an afternoon seminar for about 3 hours. Right. On with it in the beginning, but do you know what? It was the starting point of the complete shift in changing gears of just how I thought about things.
Yes.
How I focused my attention, and overall, just it kind of enhanced my attitude to, a what the hell attitude, in so much that I thought, if you don't do it, if you don't try, you're never going to know. And that's really was the starting point of all of my achievement personally. That I think that was the backbone of it.
Wow, how fantastic! And I kind of had a similar experience. Have you attended the Unleash the Power Within Tony Robbins seminar?
I haven't. No, I mean I've witnessed lots and lots of them online again. But Tony Robbins is he's at the top of his game. I mean he is phenomenal, really is. And I think because he's got that kind of real sense of emotion that goes into it. It really does hit home all the more. Yeah,
for sure.
Did you see him in London, or were you in America?
We did the London, myself and my partner, 2 years ago. We did the 4 days, very intensive course. On the first evening, we are walking over burning hot coals.
Well, yeah, I can imagine. It does. It kind of throws you completely out, doesn't it? You're kind of not sure how to think, feel, what you should be doing, etc., etc.
Puts your mindset into an absolutely unstoppable, powerful kind of mindset, and you can literally achieve anything in that moment. So that was really interesting. And do you know what I really liked about it? He incorporated so many different meditation techniques for kind of law of attraction, for kind of goal setting. And I meditate a lot every day.
Yeah, of course.
And I was really encouraged by that. And I could really get into the flow and just kind of dream big. And to be fair, Glenn, I was, as you well know, I was at KT Marketing, and I was the director there. And the week I got back, I handed in my resignation. I was like, see you later. And I set up Next Generation the week after. So it gave me that jump. I should have done it years ago.
Should have done it sooner, I guess.
For sure. It gave me a
but you know
jump.
what? Everything has its place. Everything has its timing. And I think, ultimately, well, for those people that are genuinely very, very hungry to get on in life and create the life that they want to live.
Yeah, for sure.
Look, there's always going to be hurdles. The best of the best face hurdles. It's attitude and how you overcome those that really determine the level and the heights of your success. The one thing that kind of inspired me personally is that, if you look at a lot of these kind of mega ultra wealthy people around the world, particularly stateside and here in the UK, if you look at a large tranche of them, a lot of them have done it from the ground up. And when I say that, they've had to kind of duck and dive, they've had to do deals, they've had to take knocks, they've hit hurdles face on. But you've just got to have the tenacity, the desire and the vision to just push through. Look, we all hit hurdles, and it hurts when you get rejection, but you've just got to press on.
For sure.
You've just got to press on. But ultimately, in your 20s, I didn't have that courage to press on. I was always scared of taking the knockbacks. And I left my happiness really and my own success in other people's hands. And I think for me, that was just the wrong thing to do, because, the one thing about success, and you may or may not agree, but, there's very few people out there that are actually happy for you when you kind of, you move into a new genre, a new area.
Yeah, for sure.
You start rubbing shoulders with sort of elitist, successful people.
It's all to do with your peer group, absolutely. Do you know what? And we've all been on our own individual journeys, and we've all learnt a massive amount, and we've been through some challenges, and we've received great success as well. And it's leading me on to a question of, well, what is the key to success? What do you think?
It's a very difficult. It's a simple question to answer, but it requires lots of different answers as such. Sure. I think the key to success is that you've just got to have unwavering faith. You've just got to push on. You've got to press forward. Everybody, and this meeting really couldn't have come at a better time, in so much that look at what we're going through. Yeah. This isn't contagion that we're feeling here in the UK or in the local counties, Essex or elsewhere. This is global.
Yes.
And this shutdown has almost kind of imprisoned people in their own properties, their own homes. And some people are much more fortunate than others. They've got land and they can walk around and, they've got the freedom and flexibility to move. But, for the vast majority of people, trying to remain positive and focus on, being successful in such a difficult environment takes a real sense of strength of character. So for me, I think I would have to say faith. Faith for me was the one thing that got me through in spite of the hurdles. I knew that my life and the levels of, what I wanted to achieve and the sort of success that I wanted personally, it would come at a huge cost. You have to give up your freedom. There were times when my daughters were born, particularly my first daughter, Avea, that, I was still in the city at this point. So I was getting home at 8, 9 o'clock at night because, I always had the attitude to be first in, last out. But then that's what propelled me and pushed me forward. There was a lot of people dragging their heels and, I was never like that. So, you've got to have faith. You've got to focus on the bigger picture and remain resilient.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely love that. Completely agree with you. Really leads us on to a great subject that we're going to cover right now. So obviously there was a famous book written in 2006, sold over a ridiculous amount of 30 million copies worldwide.
I know, and still selling a mega amount annually, I believe.
Definitely. And then obviously within that book, they had the most influential leaders of our generation. I'm proud to say that book absolutely changed my life forever. We're obviously talking about The Secret. I know you're a massive fan.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that it's kind of strange, I guess, for anybody that, will listen to this later down the line, or there'll be some people that will always have their reservations, or it's mumbo jumbo, it's this, it's that. But that book genuinely, did change my life. It changed my whole attitude, the way in which I looked at things, rather than looking at them in a sort of a pessimistic sort of angle. I went into it and it just completely changed. And I noticed the difference just purely through mindset changes and shifting it to be more focused and positive. I noticed a change in my life, I would probably say almost immediately. I noticed things just got better and better. The sort of people that I was able to engage with became more fruitful. They were the sort of people I needed to be around in order to aspire to, achieve the sort of success that they achieved. And I'm a firm believer in that, you are the company you keep. So that book, although I've had probably a dozen copies, I usually buy a new copy every year. I mean, I've still got the original book that was given to me. I mean, it's in tatters now, but there's something quite beautiful about it, because although it's worn and it's old, the gift that gave me, it's still with me some 12, 13 years later.
Wow.
So I'm immensely grateful for it. It's a great book. I mean, it's, the principles are very, very straightforward, but I think the key thing it comes down to is attitude and remaining focused and positive.
With where we're at the moment with isolation, for all of the listeners listening right now, it's probably the ideal book to read, right?
Oh, absolutely. And it's not like it's a heavy book to read. I mean, it's, you can read some books. I mentioned it earlier, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, which is, an amazing book. That's a heavy read, and I've read that probably 3 or 4 times now, maybe more. But, you really have to get into it to read it. But with The Secret and some of the editions that followed after that, The Power, The Magic, etc., they're much, much easier to read. But ultimately, here's the beauty of where we are now with technology. You don't need to read it. You can listen to it, via an audio version. And, every time I jump in the car and head to work or head home, I'm always listening to something that sets me up for the following day.
Yeah, for sure.
I listen to all sorts of audio books, but, mainly with the guys that we've mentioned before. But The Secret is one of them, and various others. So, you've got to constantly kind of consume yourself with the right sort of ingredients, really, for your brain, just so you can start the following day with a kick in your, a kick that you've you've got the ability to take the day on and lead the day rather than it leading you.
For sure. I'm absolutely with you on that. And tell me, the book covers a great section about vision boards. Now, for the listeners who are listening, what's the easiest way to kind of create a vision board? And are you a true believer in vision boards?
I've got to say I am because, ultimately a vision board is no different to, in some regards, to some people, having a diary or a memo of some nature where they just keep themselves constantly updated. They've got plans or actions that they want to take that day, the following day, next week, and so on. But where a vision board works for me, and I've got one, we've got one in the utility room at home. I have one in my office at home, which is kind of my sacred place. Faye and the girls, although they do go in there, they tend not to go in there too much purely because it's my working environment, and there's certain things that I just like to keep as my space because I unwind in there as well. But a vision board is where, for me, I used it, and I think from when I first used one, and again I'm going back over a decade. I put a board up, and rather than have 3 or 4 5-year goals, plans, and ambitions that I wanted to achieve, I just set myself targets, and those targets were quarterly.
Right.
Whether it was a weekend trip to Paris or Italy, or I wanted to go and do something over in the States, or whatever it was, I'd have everything on my vision board. If I wanted to get a car or work hard, really hard that first quarter to put it towards something that gave me a sense of achievement. That's what I used it for, and I still continue to do so. Not everything that I've ever put on there has come to fruition, but then arguably, has it really been one of my priorities?
That you really
and if it's
wanted.
not coming to flavour, if you will, then it's kind of, my top priority board has been probably one of the ones at the back. But ultimately, I think it's quite a healthy thing to do. And the girls, our eldest, Ave, she's only 4, but she's got one. It's completely different because she doesn't quite understand it. But it's important as children you use your imagination. And I always say to her, if I ask her, simple little tasks to do, and that's, Daddy, I can't do that. I'm always first to say you can do all things. You've just got to put your mind to it. But you have to do it in sort of such a fashion that a child would understand. Because the one thing I would never want to do is be too heavily impressionable on a young child. They've got to do what they want to do, and ultimately they've got to have a childhood and live it and enjoy it.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right, all about imagination. Would you say that with everybody in the 9-to-5 grind, do you think it prevents them from visualizing and goal setting?
Well, here's the problem with society. Invariably, if you go into London, and you're in London a lot, I'm in London a lot. We were in Canary Wharf for a long, long time, 8 or 9 years in total. But I think the tough thing is that most people are so self-absorbed in London that very few people pay any attention to you. And when you go into a working environment, one of the things that, I learned from the Les Brown Institute, and still studying that as I continue to do so today, the one thing that he says in its politest fashion is that, if you've got anybody of a negative mindset that is draining upon your own energy, you've got to push it away. You've got to take yourself out of that environment, because when you're in a negative environment, or you're around negative people, then that can have a negative impact on your thinking, and your thinking process ultimately has to come into play if you're using a vision board. Because
got you.
If you've not got the right focus, or you're feeling particularly negative, then what are you really going to be putting on a vision board that's going to inspire you to press on? You are the company you keep. I'm a firm believer in that. So I think ultimately it should be there for targets, goals, what you want to achieve personally and professionally. And ultimately for me, what I like to do as best as I possibly can is help others out. For people that are hitting their own stumbling blocks, it's important to push and you want to see other people excel.
I absolutely want to touch on to the fact of your coaching abilities and everything that you're doing on that front. Really want to discuss that further with you. Just kind of finish aspect. Do you think there is a universal magic, the law of attraction?
I mean, the law of attraction, again, I think some people dismiss it or don't believe in it. Look, there's two ways to live your life, in a positive mindset or in a negative mindset. My argument has always been, well, you know, by thinking negatively, what do you get out of it? You just run yourself into the ground. So I think, look, a positive mindset has the ability to not only kind of lift you professionally and personally, but it just opens doors.
Yes.
You know, you tend to see more opportunities coming to fruition. It's closed and you're negative, you know, opportunities could be staring you in the face, but because you're not thinking in the correct fashion, you'll dismiss it or you just won't see it. So, you know, I do think that, yes, we're all dictated to, and we're all dictated personally by energy, and your energy is either good or bad. So, yeah, for me, I think it's, you know, the story behind it is positivity, having good energy, and again, just being focused.
Welcome to America's Next Investment, a new era of investing.
Hi guys, it's Johny Pach here again, and I'm back this time to host a brand new show with a brand new podcast for America's Next Investment. A&I podcast series is where companies can gain exposure, brand awareness, and promote their capital raise. A&I podcast viewers will also have the opportunity to invest in companies featured on the A&I podcast. So make sure you stay tuned for America's Next Investment podcast show. Check out americasnextinvestment.com for the latest air dates and times. If you're a company and you want to be featured on the A&I podcast series, contact us today. Details can be found on our show notes page at the A&I website. I'm Johny Pach, and stay tuned for America's Next Investment podcast series. Thanks very much for finishing up on that. That's really engaging. I think the listeners are really gonna get a lot out of what you just mentioned there. Let's flip it on its side and talk about investment as a whole. So obviously we are in uncertain times right now. I mean, obviously we both work within the investment side. You're obviously speaking to investors quite a lot about, you know, various investment opportunities. I'm on the flip side of trying to generate as much interest with lead generation for lots of different investment opportunities at the moment. The title of this show is obviously, where does the smart money invest in times of uncertainty? And I kind of want to ask you, where do you think we should be investing right now?
I mean, obviously anything that I put over is purely my own comment and my own kind of reasoning as to what I do personally and what we do as a business. So it's not advice in that regard. But, you know, in times of difficulty, you've only got to go onto Google. I mean, arguably the defensive money, you know, moves into commodities and in particular gold, because it is deemed as a natural hedge and a safe haven in times of market difficulty, particularly where equity markets are starting to drop off. You know, the property market, I think, you know, is yet to drop and really feel the ramifications of what's going on at present. But, you know, look, no market is immune from what's happened with COVID. You know, everything's dropped back, you know, of late. But for me, I mean, we're kind of within the mineral sector. So as part of the business I do, I work very, very closely with NQ Minerals, as you know, Integral Mining, which are two big world-class mineral plays in Australia. NQ Minerals is a listed instrument, but we're fixed income. So all of our clients, and certainly all of my clients, of which I head up a kind of a private syndicate, we've got exposure, but across the board within our portfolios as a collective, if you will, we're all in fixed income vehicles. And that could be a balance of loan notes or bonds. So invested money goes in and we would receive a rate of return that could be anything from kind of between 7 and 12%.
Yes.
And that's really what we've been doing, not just in light of current market conditions, but we've been doing that since kind of 2014, really, 2015. And we'll continue to do so for the foreseeable future, because the team we work with behind NQ Minerals and Intergroup Mining as two kind of the key opportunities that we have in our books, they've been phenomenal. They've been really, really strong. And, I think for us, it's better the devil you know. Yes, arguably, there's opportunity out there. You can pick up stocks cheap. For me, it's a little bit kind of gun-ho, though, because I think you've got to be, very, very strict in your trading habits, and you've got to know what you're doing. But, trading and investing are two vastly different methods.
Okay.
So we're investors, and we seek out good opportunities that, I think security for anybody looking at investment is the number one priority. And the security itself needs to have multiple layers behind it, because without that, you're kind of rolling the dice a little bit, and that's not the nature of the beast. Certainly with what we do here, we look at more mid to long term vehicles that pay consistent income, and then it's money back at maturity, or they just roll into the next phase, if you will. So for me, commodities at present, and with that said, kind of we're in. We've got a new project as part of NQ Minerals that is moving into the electric vehicle market and battery technology under NQ Minerals.
Okay,
so,
that sounds
minerals around that cobalt and stuff.
Yeah.
But they've got a heavy focus on gold, silver, some base and precious metals, and that's what we're doing certainly for this year ahead and certainly into 2021.
We seem to be getting a lot of inquiries coming through with renewables and precious metals. Why do you think that is right now? Why is there a big influx of that type of investment right now?
Well, I think that, in relation to metals, I think there's always been an appetite in that regard, and that trades round the clock, irrespective of market conditions. There's always a market for it. With renewables, I think ultimately what's kind of pushed that, out of the parapet and become very kind of visual within the market is that, we live in unprecedented times. It's only been recently that we've had all of this plastic pollution, the oceans,
Yeah.
Some of the videos and clips you see on the news and YouTube and various other media sites. I mean, it really does it puts a lump in your throat in so much that, we really have abused the planet.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think we're feeling the ramifications of that. So I think there's a real heavy focus globally, to looking at renewable sources of energy, kind of renewable energy as a whole, I think, is the market and going forward, because we've got to do something. Relying so heavily on fossil fuels and various other bits and pieces. Yes, it gives us the ability to travel and all the rest of it. But, I mean, look at oil. I think 2 days back perhaps, it was in negative territory. It was minus 38.
Yeah.
WTI dropped to minus 38 on the forwards contract. So it would actually cost you money to sell your oil.
Right.
People want to come away from that. So you've got all of these big majors, your Shell and your BP, they're all looking at renewable sources because that is going to be the market in going forward.
Yeah, definitely. What's kind of the COVID-19 education that you're giving investors at the moment, and what is their kind of vibe about the economy and the market and where they should be investing right now?
Well, that's a good question. Again, there's two types of investors. You've got an investor that uses their head and their knowledge and their understanding via previous performance and experience.
Yeah.
And then you've got people that tend to invest with a little bit more emotion into it. Investing on the back of emotion could be quite dangerous because, there can be market inconsistencies. If you've got share prices that are going up, up, great. If they're going down, you become very tentative and nervous, and you can run your portfolio on knee-jerk reactions, which actually can have a very negative impact upon the overall success of your portfolio. I think ultimately with our investors and with my investors in particular, they have a mid to long term view. So,
Yes.
short term market reaction, as we've seen with the FTSE 100 and, global markets tapering off, I don't think they pay too much interest into it because, if their stock portfolio is down outside of what we've done with our investors, then it's a paper loss until such time it's realised.
Okay.
That's a different story. But I think most people believe and are of the mindset that the market will bounce back. Everybody said it was the end of the world. It was going to be, the financial depression globally Mark II back in 2007 and 2008.
Yes.
But actually, I have to say personally that, when we were trading and what we were doing back then, we had a phenomenal 2 years. Between 2008 and 2010, we had a really, really strong 24 months. And in fact, we had a more difficult 2011, 2012. So look, good or bad markets, there's opportunity. You've just got to be very kind of focused in your approach. Try not to be kind of too beaten up with short-term market sentiment. I do think it will bounce back. In fact, I'm almost positive it will bounce back, but it's going to take some time because ultimately what runs markets is opinions and facts, and confidence is the main thing. That's what injects money back into the market.
Gotcha.
Some of our investors, just to touch on your earlier point, there's a lot of them that are feeling the pinch. The businesses have all but closed.
Yes.
I've got one client, a chap called Chris, who's heavily involved in the retail sector.
Okay.
And he's really felt the pinch. It's been very, very difficult for him. But on the same token, he's still got income from other sources. Had he not had that, it would have been an altogether different story. And I suspect that that's the case for many, many people. So, our investors are happy at the moment. Obviously, everybody's a little bit nervous, myself included, but you've just got to remain focused. You've got to remain positive and seek out opportunities as they arise. There's going to be lots and lots of cheap opportunities, cheap properties, and cheap asset classes that you can pick up. But as I always say to all of my investors, don't overexpose yourself in any one sector too much.
Really interesting, and that was actually really good feedback. And I'm kind of on the same lines as yourself. Obviously we've got a lot of clients within alternative investment, mostly
Sure.
real estate as well. They're all saying exactly the same thing that you're mentioning there. So.
Well, I think it's difficult, Johnny, in so much that, if you look at the Bank of England base rate as we currently sit today, I mean, it's not just at an historic low, it's at a low it's never, ever been at in its history. So what does that mean for people that have got their funds just sat in a straightforward current account or even a savings account? It means, in short, that they've got next to no return or uplift for money that sits there deposited. In fact, if anything, I don't quite know how genuine it is, but I've read various articles that, at some point, maybe this year or certainly next, that banks, are going to start charging just to hold a bank account with them.
Crazy.
If you've got the rate of inflation at 2-3%, and Bank of England base rate is so miserably low, really you're in negative territory.
Yeah.
At the end of the calendar year, you're in negative territory. So you've got to be a little bit more exotic in what you focus your attention on in order to build up a nest egg or, to create a portfolio that has the ability to not only adjust, but be able to profit. You've got to do something. Leaving your money in the bank is, in my opinion, is dinosaurs' way of doing it. You've got to do something that's suitable for your needs, your requirements, and that falls in line with, your experience and understanding in the marketplace.
Scary times, but a big positive view in it as well, because there is so much opportunity out there now, as you mentioned, with the renewables and with the precious metals really coming in with a big influx at the moment. It's this is possibly the time to invest in some low entry alternatives there and look for the long game.
Absolutely. I mean, it's and just touching on it briefly, Chris, my guy, my client that's been heavily involved in the retail sector for probably 45, 50 years. You know, he's been through market downturns. You know, he like everybody else in the market has suffered difficulty at the hands of the market overall. You know, like we all have. But the key thing for him is that he's never noticed the downturn in retail as what he's seen in the last 5 or 6 years. You know, people's buying patterns have changed immensely. You know, people don't need to go into the city, you know, going to London, go up to Oxford Street. You know, people have become, dare I say it, a little bit lazy in their buying styles. You know, why? Faye would be a prime example, my fiance. So she would buy stuff online now, you know, whether it's a dress or whatever, but she can try it in the comfort of her own home, try it on with multiple outfits or pairs of shoes or whatever. Right. And then if she doesn't like it, she can just send it back, because they send a, you know, self-addressed envelope or a package. You can send it back and then you're done. You know, so it's kind of taken the whole thing out of retail, where people used to use it as an experience. They'd go shopping, they'd have lunch, they'd have some drinks with their girlfriends or whatever, and make a day of it. That's really has changed.
No, good stuff. Thank you very much for kind of sharing that. I know the listeners are going to get a lot from what you just mentioned there. It leads me on to kind of the word of success. Now, I want to ask you, what does success mean to you? Because it does come in every different shape or form. And I also want to ask you, do you have kind of 5 rules of success?
So success for me really is kind of freedom.
Yes.
And when I say freedom, I mean if you've got a business that is kind of, dare I say it, self-sufficient, but a business that you're involved in, that you're very, very passionate about, it doesn't feel like a business. It doesn't feel like work. It's almost an extension of a social scene. I mean, I speak to my clients, some of them pretty much every single day. You know, we go out for our lunches and have drinks and go to events. Obviously, we can't do that at the moment, but freedom for me gives you the ability to educate yourself, to build up your knowledge, but more importantly, it gives you the ability to help other people. You know, and being a father, like many of the people out there they're a parent, you know, ultimately you want the very, very best of starts for your children. So, you know, I've got to set an example as best I possibly can for my children. You know, if they were my main candidates, if you will, for inspiring. But I think with freedom, you've got the ability to travel, to do things that, you know, you're passionate about. That is success for me. It doesn't just come in monetary form. Monetary form, of course, does give you freedom in many regards, but, you know, money isn't always the key to happiness. And I think if you've got scar tissue or you're suffering internally, and you've got loads of money in the bank, you know, that can sometimes be a very, very dangerous thing.
I agree.
You can run yourself into the ground and you can exploit things and, you know, not take too good a care of yourself. So I would say it was freedom. In terms of success principles, not in any particular order, but I think you've got to be very, very driven, without question. You've got to have laser focus on whatever it is you want to achieve, irrespective of the hurdles you will definitely encounter. Desire is a massive one. And I think, you know, with tenacity and vision, they're probably among my top 5. But, you know, the list goes on. You've got to have an amalgamation of all of them and be able to balance it, not only in the short term, but certainly in the long term, with all of your ambitions and goals and objectives that you want to achieve over the next month, quarter, and certainly the next year.
Look, Glenn, I know you're very much a person that wants to help others, teach and educate. Tell us about your business as a performance coach.
So, I mean, that came out of just a passion. It came out, my passion was that, you know, I started with next to nothing. I had very little assistance, but over a period of time, I was able to build that up and engage with the right sort of people and build my knowledge, and kind of the rest is history. Yes. For me personally, what I aim to do is that any people that I work with, it's trying to get them to shift their focus, their mindset, and get them to focus rather than the negatives and the things that are kind of keeping them tied down, to focus on what can lift them out of that negative environment, and propel them onto achieving success. I take great pleasure in seeing other people, be successful and do very, very well for themselves. There's a lot of people, and particularly in the UK, you find it. You don't find it as much in America, although it's still prevalent. But, a lot of people here in the UK, they don't want to hear a success story. They don't want to see you up on your luck, if you want to say that. They become kind of envious, and, they can find every reason under the sun to try and run you into the ground. So, it boils down to, you are the company you keep. If I can be the right sort of company, even to just enhance the life of one person, I would consider that work well done.
Excellent. And what type of methods do you teach? Is it like an NLP type of training?
Kind of. I mean, there's very, very different aspects. I mean, some people may come to me that, their business, I've had a case fairly recently that, their business is, I wouldn't say faltering, but it's kind of on the back foot a little bit, which arguably could be to do with COVID, although they've felt, things have not been working as well as they were. 2018 and the first part of 2019 has started to taper off. But, that could and has come down to not just, their own focus on what they want to achieve, that they've got sales staff, within the motor industry that, just aren't fit for purpose. Not that they don't have the ability to do well, they've got themselves into a rut. And unfortunately, that's filtered its way through his business, and he's had to kind of turn it on its head, and he's had to look very, very seriously at some of the staff and, the methods that he's been using in order to maximise sales. The car industry is, as you may well know, I mean, has been hit terribly hard.
Yes.
Of late, there's changes in technology. You've got Tesla, you've got, the whole EV market, etc. But, the top end of the car market, aside from Rolls-Royce, who I think had record sales last year, has suffered.
Right.
You've only got to look at Aston Martin. I don't know what their share price is at present, but they've been taken out pretty much.
Okay.
Their share price was much, much higher. I don't know what it was at its high, and I could be wrong here, but I'm pretty certain it was about £20 or £30 a share. I think it's currently at £2. So, there's lots of things going on in the automobile industry.
Yeah.
And the most sought after high-end cars, your supercars, undoubtedly are feeling the pinch, because in times of uncertainty and markets tapering off, what's the one thing to go? And it's usually luxury goods.
Yes. We know
people can do without it, because all that they're focused on at present is the health of themselves and their families.
Yeah, for sure.
So you have to change what you focus your attention on. It's testing for anybody, but the one thing that I try to do for all of my clients, be it with the syndicate and investors that I deal with daily, or people that are looking for a helping hand in order to enhance their own lives or that of their businesses, you've just got to remain focused. You've got to have goals. You've got to set yourself, but more importantly, you've got to be committed. Without commitment, nothing happens.
Great. And so your customers, investors, clients, what do they take away from your performance coaching? Obviously, everybody's going to have a very mixed bag. They're all going to take different aspects away. But what really stands out for you?
I think ultimately what my clients, I'd like to think I'm confident in saying this, but I think what my clients would take from me as the overriding thing that has enabled us to build upon our relationships. Some clients I've dealt with for 13, 14 years, and our relationships are very, very strong. But I have an unwavering passion for life and success and getting on. And I think, my whole attitude probably does inspire them somewhat, because I always try to remain upbeat. We all have bad days, there's no question. We all need time out and space to refocus, but I'm always very positive and upbeat, because for every disadvantage or negative thing that's going on, there's always there's always an advantage to the negative and so on and so forth. So, I would say positivity is the one thing that probably inspires them. I could be ultra pessimistic at the moment given the market conditions, but what would my clients gauge from that? They'd probably see a weakness, and that's just not in my vocabulary. I think there's opportunity, come hell or high water, there's always opportunity to take advantage of. So my positive attitude is probably the one thing that inspires them, and their faith in me is the one thing that inspires me, because without it, I've got no foundations.
I really like that. And I wanted to ask you, this is going to be a really vague question. I don't know how you're going to answer it, but how can my listeners have a more positive attitude on life? What would you recommend?
Study. I think the only thing that can kind of take you out of that mindset and put you onto a different plane, and one that has every opportunity to kind of enhance the way in which you live, is study. I mean, I was watching a podcast only yesterday, Robert Kiyosaki, the gentleman that wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I'm sure you've read. There's a great audio version on YouTube. But the one thing that he is heavily focused on, and the one thing that is gospel to him, is that when you're at school, be it not so much junior school, but certainly in secondary school, they don't teach you how to live. They teach you how to get a job and go and work for a company, but they don't teach you how to become self-reliant.
Yes.
And the only way that people get ahead in this world is by keeping themselves up to speed and having knowledge about a wide genre of subjects. You don't have to be a genius in all of those subjects, but a little knowledge about a lot can actually put you in a formidable position, and a very, very healthy position to go on and achieve success, become self-reliant, and become very wealthy by your own merit.
Yes.
So I think study is the key thing. And when I say study, I don't mean to say you've got to sit in a classroom and absorb yourself in hours and hours of, script and reading. That's not what it's about. But little kind of shifts in, your afternoon or your morning, just listening to 15 minutes of positive news flow. I don't watch the news. I've got Sky on at the moment.
Likewise.
Purely and simply because I've not watched anything regarding COVID.
Same here.
Certainly over the last week. So I'm kind of out of the loop. But I thought just as a tester, I'll put it on. It seems a little bit more upbeat, I have to say.
Right.
But the reason I don't watch the news is because at the moment, it's just been one negative thing after another. And you can have the most resilient mindset and positive mindset, but when you're surrounded by it constantly, it starts to chip away at you. So I just don't watch it.
You mentioned Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Absolutely love that book. I took various elements out of that book, which I really adapted into my life. What's a book that you've read recently, and what was the message that it left you with?
A book that I've read recently, well, actually only last week or probably the week before, for the second time, I read The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene.
I've heard of that.
Now, when I say The 48 Laws of Power, that's the title of the book. That's not what I'm looking for, power, but it's, for me, there's some amazing principles in there. And it's all about competitive edge. Where is your competitive edge? How can you take advantage, and how can you propel yourself in what is a very, very carnivorous market? Yes. Everybody's out there to do business. Everybody wants your clients if they haven't got them. And if they have got them, they want somebody else's clients, because that's how people can propel themselves. I don't actually have that attitude of competition.
Yes.
I just try and enhance what I'd done the previous day.
Yes.
So I'm very, very kind of focused on that. I don't believe I've got competition with anyone, because that competition kind of mindset comes from a position of lack. And I think it can actually become a negative. But 48 Laws of Power is an amazing book. And again, they do an audio version. You can listen to it online, but the kind of the principles behind it are about how to get a competitive edge, how to read people, how to understand environments when you're in it, in order for you to excel. And that's for me has been a great book.
I'm on Amazon now. I'm about to order this, and
I can get it in the audio version. I mean, you don't even need to pay for it. That's the beauty of it. I mean, it's on YouTube,
right.
48 power, and you can listen to the audio version. I'll pre-warn you, it's about 9 or so hours long. But I had it on only this morning. I started it again, the audio version, and I listened to the first 40 minutes on the journey in, and I shall listen to it again going home, because I don't read books once. If I read a book, I then want to follow up and listen to the audio version, because for me personally, I'm a little bit more visual. Reading, I'm very happy to do, but I tend to take more in from an audio perspective, because if I miss something, I just go back 20 minutes and re-listen to it, and then I absorb it all the more. You're
like me there, Glenn, because I love we love to read books before we go to sleep. I'm actually reading Josh Altman's book at the moment from $1 Million Listed. It's pretty cool. But
yeah, brilliant.
Let me ask you: Are you dyslexic by any chance?
I'm not. No.
Right. Well, I am, and I find it quite difficult to read books, and I never get to finish the books. But I'm all for trying. And
well, look, testament to you. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. My father-in-law, Faye's father, Adrian, he's dyslexic, and he really struggles, but he's not really an avid reader as such, but he'll gladly listen to audio versions.
Yeah.
For him, it just works better.
Yes.
It's irrespective of that, you've just got to press on, and, audio versions for me just work. I just enjoy it that little bit more.
Yeah, I got you. It dissects into your brain a little
absolutely,
bit more.
Absolutely. And like I say, if you miss anything, all you've got to do is just take it back a little bit, and then you listen and you pick up what you missed, and you actually pick up more, because it's like watching a film, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can watch a film for the first time, and then you watch it again and you think, oh, actually, I missed that. And then you it enhances what you understood about the film in itself.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, Glenn, tell us, before we go, what's coming up for you and the family when we're all out of isolation?
Good question. Do you know what? I think the first thing for us to do as a family would be to be involved with all of the family. We normally would do, particularly when the weather's been as good as it has been. I've got to say, it's been a really beautiful April thus
Definitely.
far. But no, family barbecues, outings. I'm actually looking forward to that kind of more than anything, because we've spent little to no time with extended family members. We've not seen. I've not seen my parents, and Faye's not seen hers in person for probably 5 or 6 weeks now. So that will be among the first things to do. But I think the one thing that I miss, I like traveling a little bit. We had plans to go to Italy next month, to Sardinia. That's obviously off at present, but I don't know. I think focus on family time, and then from a business perspective, get out and get back to doing some nice lunches with clients.
Yeah.
We do these client gatherings quite a lot in London, where I would take out maybe half a dozen of my clients on separate events, and do lunches and meet with the team at NQ Minerals Intergroup. A lot of the guys that have been over from Australia. I just love being around people, and people that are of a similar mindset, healthy people to be around.
Definitely.
For my own selfish needs, really. But no, I'm looking forward to that, and just looking forward to getting back to business in a more consistent fashion.
Yeah, for sure. We'll certainly have a couple of beers when we're up in town. And
absolutely. Well, I mean, hopefully this will be the first of many that will be coming up over the course of this year, certainly for the summer and autumn and going forward. But look, I think the key thing here is that every conversation that we have in going forward, and I'm sure for the listeners, there'll be something fresh and new on the tips of people's tongues, because things are going to change. I think our former way of life, 6-8 weeks ago, I think we're going to find there's going to be some drastic differences.
I agree.
Some of which will be positive. I'm sure some that people won't take as kindly to. But look, you've just got to press on, focus, be positive, and enjoy living, because it's short.
Brilliant. Absolutely love that. A great send off to this. Finally, where can we find your work?
So from a kind of a personal perspective, if people are looking at, trying to enhance their mindset, then they can just pop along to Glen King, www.glenking.co.uk, and there's a wealth of information on there. More from an investment angle and perspective, as I said, I head up a private syndicate and primarily focus on high net worth, ultra high net worth clients and corporate entities. Because I run all of the books for NQ Minerals and Intergroup Mining. So feel free to join me on LinkedIn. There's a wealth of information on there. And if anybody requests any further information, then I'll be glad to send it over to you. You've got it anyway, Johnny. So
I'll put it in the description.
Yeah, I look forward to engaging again.
Definitely. We'll definitely have you on again. And all my love and everything to the family. And
likewise,
I will see you outside of our isolation for sure.
Here's to the freedom that's in front of us.
I love that.
Hopefully only another 3 or 4 weeks, and then we've got a bit more flexibility in terms of travel, and if they do lift the restrictions and people can kind of get back to work, I dare say it will go back to what it was previously, but I think, there'll be much more freedom. The first week I'm in London, we'll touch base and, we'll have an afternoon and catch up.
Sounds good to me, buddy.
Good man.
Have a wonderful evening. And I will
you too. Take it steady. Great to speak with you, Johnny. And, all the best, everyone.
Thanks a lot, buddy. Catch you in a bit.
Take care.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Hey, guys, that was another episode of the Johny Pach Show. And that was my guest, Glen King, a multimillionaire within the investment field and motivational speaker. It was great to get his insights into motivational speaking. We seem to follow the same spiritual teachers and mentors. Your Tony Robbins, your Les Brown, your Wayne Dyer, etc. It was great to have that relationship with him and to share similar experiences. Very interesting within the investment field. I even asked him, Glenn, where should we be investing right now? And he said, don't. Hold on to your money. The markets are so fluctuant, very unpredictable. You heard it from the horse's mouth. Hold on to your money right now. One thing that really stuck out with the whole conversation around success, he mentioned your peer group. It's all about your peer group. The people who you surround yourself with are a true reflection of who you are. So for my listeners, just be careful with who you're hanging around with. Are they motivating and inspiring you, or are they just bringing you down? Be aware of that. I even asked him, what does success mean to you? And he said freedom. Freedom within your work and your play. He mentioned work to himself was socializing with his clients. And it's all about education and it's all about giving back. And then we really discussed our passion behind the book, The Secret, which massively had a great impact on my life as well as Glen's. It's all about giving back. It's all about gratitude, the law of attraction. If you haven't read The Secret or watched the movie on Netflix, get onto that today. And I want to hear as many positive comments about The Secret and the changes it's making into your life as soon as you watch it or listen to it. I want to hear from you guys. Guys, that was another fantastic episode. Looking forward to catching up with Glen outside of isolation, having a beer with him and just talking business and spiritualism and well-being. He's a great guy. And I've got many more great guys coming up for you. Once again, we've been extensively recording these interviews for the last few weeks now. Very high-end individuals, top of their game within real estate, investment, motivational speaking, COVID-19 testing, philanthropy. I'm about to interview somebody very soon who is one of the winners of the show on BBC, The Apprentice. Stay tuned for that. That's a fantastic interview coming your way. Guys, once again, if you love the show and you want to let more people know about it, the Johny Pach Show, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple iTunes, I should say. Get sharing, get liking. We want to hear your comment and get spreading the word about the Johny Pach Show as much as you can. Guys, I'm Johny Pach. Stay safe, stay well, stay motivated, and I will see you on the next show. Johny Pach signing out.